So everyone, I am so excited. .NET 8 is finally here. So I have updated this to show you some awesome .NET 8 features that I'm very excited about. We've got a lot of stuff to get through, so I'm hoping I can get through all the stuff. This is me. Or I should say this is me rather than like gesturing at my screen. The important thing is that all of the code I'm going to show you is on this GitHub repo, Layla-P, and everywhere else I am Layla Codes It. So we're going to cover a few of these things down here. And the idea behind this talk is if you've come from, I don't know, .NET Framework, or maybe you're coming from earlier versions of .NET Core, or maybe you're coming from a different language altogether, but you already know a lot of the things that go on in software, how to write quality software, but how do you do it in .NET 8, modern .NET 8 stuff. So I'm going to give you a whirlwind round and show you some stuff. So let's assume that you are coming from an older version of .NET Core. So that may well have looked like, if we come in here, I don't know, let's say we might have had a program file. Now I just need to zoom in here and have a look. So this would be our program, and not really much comes in here. You may have added some stuff off the host builder, or maybe down here in your configure web hosts, but you were probably doing a lot more in your startup. So this is where you would get your configuration, where you would register all your services and then all your middleware and everything like that. So that was all in here. And I was really, really attached to this. And this all changed in .NET 6. Okay, so this all changed. You can still do this pattern with program and startup, but we did change everything in .NET 6. So that's something that I just found a real tax to my brain to think about how to do that. So let's go over and have a look at a .NET 8 app, because it looks like a .NET 6 app, and have a little look at some different things. Now, I'm conscious of time. That's why I'm going to go really quickly, and I'm not the fastest of speakers. So we're going to go and have a look. So this is our new program, and you may notice that it's missing a lot of things that you may well be used to if you're coming from older versions of .NET or .NET Framework. And that's because we don't have a program and we don't have a main method. That is all magically happening behind the scenes. Now, if you use a cool tool that I can't remember the name of, you can see what this actually compiles to. I saw Scott Hunter show that at a conference a few weeks ago. And you can see that this actually compiles to look like program and main. But this here has so much less ceremony than we're used to, okay? Now, if you're coming from Node.js and maybe using Express.js, this is going to look a lot more comfortable for you, okay? It looks more like something you'd see in Express.js. So what have we got going on here? Well, we've got our web application builder up here, and this is what we're going to add everything onto as you're configuring your web app. So if we come down here, we can add configuration, and I want to just highlight that this is really important, which order you do. It goes through here, and each new line overwrites the line above if there's duplicate values, okay? So the first thing we're going to get is our app settings. So if we go and have a look in the project, that looks like this in my particular one. And you can see that I have things like value set in user secrets. Now, that's a great thing that came out ages and ages ago. And user secrets in Visual Studio, you can just right-click here and go manage user secrets, and that will show you stuff in a file that looks just like this, but it's stored outside of your repository. You can get to that on your Mac as well. You can set all of that up, but we'll not go into that today. But this is totally cross-platform. You just might not be able to get to it by right-clicking on your project. So how does that work? Well, that's because we choose this one first, and then we do environment variables, and then you see we've got add user secrets here. So that will overwrite that set in user secret. And then we've got command line. So that's how you can build that up. This is also where you can sort of specify external configuration and things like that, and just bring in all those different configurations. And then we come down here, we've got some things, add controllers. Now, that's something that we may want to use, but we may not want to use controllers because we have other options in the later versions of .NET. Now, we'll come back to that. And then we have some stuff here to help with the local development. So that's your Swagger, so your API Explorer type stuff. And then we'll just ignore that, come down here, and then we build our app. So now this here is a web application. Okay, so then we only have our Swagger turned on if it's in development mode. So that's not going to go live to your published deployed version. And then we've got some more sort of middleware type stuff. So we've got the use HTTPS, we've got the map controllers, and then if we keep going down, we've got this very weird thing here, which is very like Express.js. And this is our new minimal APIs that came out in .NET 6. Now, if you get a template, this blew my brain when I first saw .NET 6. I was like, oh my goodness, all of this just dumped in my program file. Okay, I like to have everything compartmentalized and abstracted away. And the idea of having all of my APIs and all of my services all registered in this one program file just blew my mind. Okay, I did not like it. So I did everything I could to use the old pattern, but I have come around to this. Okay, so that's a story for another day. So we have all of this. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is just one other thing at the top here, is that we've got all these usings here. And another lovely feature that we have in later versions of .NET is global usings. So we can clear up those sorts of files that take up a lot of room. Okay, if we have something that we use in a lot of places, so let's say system.text .json, we can now add just a CS class. So if I get rid of that, and we can go over to our program file, grab this. Let me go and get that. And you may have noticed that there isn't any system in here either, and I'll explain why that is. So if we go using, and then we have system, oh no, I meant to go global, okay, because this is now our globally scoped using, okay? So now, if we come back in here, I save that, you can see there's no red little marks in here. It's all happy. I could take all of these out as well if I wanted, if they were necessary for globally scoped this. So you can do that. Don't just blanket do that, because it may be only one file that needs it. But so that's a cool thing. So how does it do that? But if we go and look in the project file here, that's because we have this implicit usings. That's why we don't need the system at the top or anything like that, because based on the type of project I instantiated or newed up, it knows the type of libraries I'm going to want. And that's why I don't have a gajillion things at the top here. So if we go and check out the .NET 5 project, for example, you can see I've got all of this here. All of this is now implied and behind the scenes. If I was to go and disable this, you would see we'd get a lot of, not that one. Let's go here. We can go and disable this. And then we'll start to see probably a whole load of errors when the IDE catches up. So you can see now that it's like, oh, I don't know what those are. So let's go and just re-enable that. So that's all running behind the scenes. So it's a nicer experience for you as a web developer. But the thing I didn't like, as I remember, was all of these dependencies. So let's go. I'm going to assume that you know what dependency injection is, because this is ASP.NET Basics for Experts, okay? And now if you're coming from an older framework, you may be used to using Ninject or Castle Windsor or AutoFac, any of those dependency injection frameworks. But you don't need to use those now because it comes built in to .NET and has done so for quite a long time. So how do we go and add in some dependencies? Well, let's start here because this API down here is looking rather horrid because I do not want to new up a client in here. There's no using here. It's not going to get disposed. This is really not a good way to do it. And then I've got all of these waffle ingredient services, this waffle creation service. And by the way, this is about waffles because I'm big on food examples. So what I want to do is take all of this code that we're creating in this API out. It shouldn't be the responsibility of this API to create all of these services. We want to think about our single responsibility principle. And I'm just going to whip all this out. Okay, so let's go and start with our dependency injection. So we first of all want to inject an iWaffle creation service. So that's going to be our WCS. So you can see that's happy, but we haven't got this available to it. So up here, we add all of our services to the web application builder. So I'm just going to dump these here for the time being, and we'll work our way back up. So the first one I'm going to add is the one that we've just requested to be injected down here. You can treat, if I scroll back down here, this anonymous function here, just like a anonymous expression, like your constructor. So you can inject whatever you like into your API. We'll come back and have a closer look at those towards the end of the session, because I want to stick with the stuff up here. So services dot add, we need builder.services, builder.services, dot add, and we have three life cycles. We've got a singleton, we've got scoped, and we've got transient, based on how you need your life cycle to run. So we don't have time to cover that today, but what we can do is go and then we've got, ooh, why are you over there? Come here. You are supposed to be in here. Get out of the way, IntelliSense. And then we're going to add a waffle creation service. Okay, so that's that first one gone. So that can go. But that needs a WIS, a waffle ingredient service. So we need to add that as well. So what I'm just going to do is just quickly grab this. We're going to add that as a singleton as well. And I'm just going to add a waffle ingredient service here. Now this one does not have an interface, so I can just add it as the concrete implementation. So in this one, you may have noticed that in my minimal API, I requested an iWaffle creation service, and it's going to give me a concrete version of that. So here I've only registered my concrete version. And the last thing we need is our HTTP client. So builder.services.add, and we have a special one here, HTTP client, and this is going to use the HTTP client factory, which manages all of your HTTP clients for you. You should definitely be using this. It will stop all terrible things happening to your HTTP clients. It'll stop socket exhaustion. It will manage reuse and lifecycle. So just use this. Okay, so now you can start to see that if we have a lot of services in here, our program file is going to get a little horrible. Let's just check that this works. So I'm just going to press play. And where's it going to spring up? Is it going to? I'm just waiting for this. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Here it is. Okay, right. So you can see that minimal APIs come in here under the project name. And we can try that out. And there we go. So we've got some waffle types coming in there. So that's all working. Our dependency injection is working. But one of the things that really put me off this minimal hosting pattern, because that's what this is called, and top level statements, was having everything in this one file. So let's go and fix that. I'm going to take all of these out. And I'm going to write an extension method. So if we come over here, I've sort of got one slightly mapped out. So this needs to be a static class. Doesn't need to be partial. I like to have them partial because I like to call them all service collection extensions, but that's a matter of preference. This can be called whatever you like. So we're going to write the extension method in here, which is public static, and this needs to extend our iService collection. It could extend web application builder if you like, but that's not my preference. So we're going to go add dependencies. This is a very generic name. You can call it something something more specific to your, what's your problem? Not, oh, okay, that's fine. That's it. So to write an extension method, we need the this keyword, and then we can go iService collection. Let's go services. And then to make that happy, we need to return services. Okay, so there's our very first extension method. Let's go and put these in, and we just need to go and do that. All right. It's happy, okay? So now you can start to abstract all of those services into these extension methods. And then you mustn't forget to use them, okay? So how we use them is like so. And if I run the project again, if it builds, I've noticed that the preview version of Visual Studio is slower than my normal version. And you can see we can try that out, and off we go. It's all working. Fantastic. Okay, so now we can go a step further. And we can tidy this up even more. This waffle ingredient service, if we go and have a look, has that dependency on the HTTP client. So we can make this a strongly typed HTTP client. So to do that, we can copy that. And now we've got a strongly typed HTTP client. Okay, so you may have heard that. And this is still using HTTP client factory. And I'm going to show you a reason why you might want to do that in a moment. So we can also do a named HTTP client. So that one, we go add HTTP client. And then in here, we can go give it a name. So let's go dotnet conf, and then we can come in here and we can start doing some stuff with it. So we can put another thing in here. We can define the base address is equal to new, and that's a new URI there. And then we can go and give it HTTP, whatever we need, okay? And there we go. Okay, so now we got these three types. Now, why do you want to do that? Well, this one here extends iService collection. Okay, fair enough. But these two here extend iHTTP client builder. And what that allows you to do is to add some policies to it for resiliency. Okay, now that is quite a big segment, so we won't be able to go into that today. But if we had some policies, in fact, let me just grab these. I'm going to steal these, and I have another extension ready to go called add clients and policies, and we can just dump them in here. So exactly the same thing here. This one's called add clients and policies, but this one happens to have some policies available in it. And I've popped that down here. This is using Poly. So if you haven't checked out the Poly library, go and check it out. And these are just some standard policies I've written. And the beauty of using these two ones that expand iHTTP client library is I can just comment that one out because I've got one I made earlier. We can go and uncomment this and uncomment this. And now I've got some resiliency. If you've been looking and seen some of the keynotes on .NET Aspire, that has some really cool policies kind of built in out of the box to add to your HTTP client factory. So make sure you go and check out Aspire and some of those components that are available on it. I'm very excited to play with those and bring those into this talk. So now, if there's a problem with my waffle ingredient servers, say it gets a 500 error, it's going to know how to deal with that. So this is going to be more resilient. So that's a really good thing to do. And that's what you can only do with the named and strongly typed HTTP clients on the services. So that's a good thing to do. So just to make sure that my app will still work, we can go and do this and add this one to the program as well. So there it is. Okay, so we've got that one. And then you can make extension methods for anything. So down here, I've got one for databases. This one I have to pass in the configuration. So that's the configuration we set up here. Sorry, the boy racers are out in case you can hear pops and bangs. So we go over here, and you can see just the same pattern as before. We've got the iService collection being passed in, and then I've got my iConfiguration config. So now I've got my DB context being set up, and I can get my connection string from my configuration. Okay, so that's really cool. You can set these up however you decide that suits your team best. Now, before we move on from dependency injection, let me show you something really cool from .NET 8. So if I come back and look at this one here, the add singleton iWaffle creation service, I have another one of these services dot add singleton, and then we go iWaffle creation service, another waffle creation service. Okay, I've got 2 instances of that, which is pretty cool. If we go and check out our controllers, if I go over here, you can see that, let's scroll down, I can inject a collection of a type. And now you wouldn't really want to do this here. This is more for doing things like strategy pattern. For example, you may want to inject a whole load of rule sets to iterate over for your strategy. So that's more where you would use this. But you could inject your collection and then in theory, go and get the type of service, the concrete version that you want out, just like this, okay? But it's not very nice, and I wouldn't recommend doing this pattern at all, okay? So I'm not going to go down there. I don't want to show you give away the secrets yet. So we have this version here, okay? So we can do better. Let's go back over here because we have this new type here. We've got add keyed, and you'll see why it's errored because if I go in here, oh, why did you do that? What did you do? We intelligence, stop it. Got it. I beat it. Okay. So in here, we have to give it a name. So this one can be waffle creation service. Let's go with that. And this one, no, go away. Got it. Oh my goodness. So we can go and have another waffle creation service. Okay. All right. So now we've got these keyed ones, and I can go and grab them by this stringy name. Now, I would abstract that out into a configuration file so we don't have these magic strings everywhere. So I'm going to grab this name here because I don't know if these match the ones I've already got. So let's go back in here. I'm going to comment out this block of code. And then if I come down here, yes, I have a different name. I've got this other constructor here. And you can see I've got this annotation here. And I can go and say, all right, go and get me this particular service called this and assign it to my waffle creation service. And then if I go back, where did I have it? We go and get this name. I can go and do this. And then it knows, the IOC container knows exactly which service I want. And we don't have to go and do all of this link up here to get the service. We can just go and grab it and assign it. So I think that's fabulous. I love it. It's amazing. You can have it for fallback. You can do all sorts of things with this. So whilst we're in this controller, I just want to show you one more cool thing with .NET 8 that we got. So imagine I only had an HTTP client here. And let's just say, let me just, for simplicity, I'm just going to say that we have, we're injecting a client like this, okay? So just ignore that. That's how you would, that bit of code there is how you would get a specific named client out of the HTTP client factory. But let's just say this is what we have. We're just injecting an HTTP client into any old service. In this case, it's a controller. So I can actually do this and comment this out. We've got this new primary constructors, and I can do that. I love it. It's, we can get rid of all this code, and now we don't even need this line here. We don't need that. We can just go ahead, and if I change the name for that to that, that will just work with any code that I have down here that needs to use an HTTP client. done. We don't need to have all of this line here with our constructors. So another beautiful thing that we've been gifted in .NET 8. Okay, so that's all cool. I'm just going to close that down. As a point, we can go and use these named, wrong one. We can use those named ones in our minimal API. And we've got a few minutes left. We can go and do that here. So rather than that, we can go and say, oops, we can go keyed from keyed services. We can go in here and say waffle creation service like that. We can say that that's going to be, oh no, it still needs to be an iWaffle, and we can do it like that. Okay, so we can use that in our minimal APIs also. Now, to abstract your minimal APIs, you can do them exactly the same way. So you can pull those out of your project. If we go and have a look, I've got a helper. There is a completed version of this whole demo on GitHub. So if we go to our extensions, we can see we've got add APIs. And in here, we would just have public static web application, add APIs, and then in here, we go, we need to have this web application app. We can return app like so. If I go and grab this minimal API, we can grab that. We can go app.add APIs. I can save that, go back over here, and I can drop my minimal APIs in here. I could organize these like I would controllers, but we get that little bit faster response time and less ceremony that we get from that. Just as the last thing is to do a post, you can set this up just as you would as a RESTful API. So we can have post like so. We can have whatever we want in there, just ignore that. And if we go over here, we can just go and say, well, this is what the body is going to map to. And the compiler is clever enough to know that this is going to be from the body because it doesn't have an order inside the IOC container. So it knows that this must be from the post body. If this didn't have this decorator and it was how it was before, and this was just a regular service, not a keyed service, it would know that because it would go and check the IOC container first. So there you go. That's my whirlwind tour around .NET 8 apps. If you already know what you're doing, just giving you a little bit of an idea of how to organize your applications, how to get the most of them, how to organize everything just to make it nice for you. So you don't have to come into your application and go, oh my goodness, this is just a nightmare. I don't know even where to begin. And it looks like a script. So that is it. Wow. Okay, Maddie, I'm 1 minute over. I apologize.
Hey, look who we have over here.
Hi.
Hi.
That was great. It made me want waffles, so thanks for that.
I'm sorry. I have potato waffles in the freezer. I could go and have those.
Well,
we're doing a handoff. So like
okay.
you get two people that you know.
Lucky me.
And we'll go forward with it. I don't think I was looking at the questions and I don't see anything that has been asked about. So
no, just lots of excitement.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
I was going to say, so actually, how many applications have you gone through, like, for yourself? Like, because, you do a lot of demos and everything else. So I know, like, for me, I always get stuck. I'm like, oh, this was the .NET, ASP.NET 5 demo or ASP.NET 6 demo. Now I got to move it to 8 or to 7, right? It's a continuous thing. Do you have any tips that you've developed by kind of updating things like that?
Well, I must say that this was so easy to update. I literally went into the CS proj and just changed 7 to 8 and went rebuild and updated everything. And it was so easy. Okay, it was phenomenally easy. So I have zero complaints. The problems I've had are with when I used to do some Blazor
Oh, sure.
applications, shifting those over. I had real problems moving from like 5 to 6 with Blazor, and I had to rebuild those. And it doesn't matter if it looks identical to the one
Right.
I rebuild. There was some magic behind it. So I'm hoping with the ease that I just updated from 7 to 8 in this application, that all of that problem has been ironed out. But if you're just using sort of web APIs, there's really no hassle. And there's also migration tools if you're going from like framework or anything like that. So it's so easy now. I mean, really easy. So this is really cool.
Yep. Yeah, and honestly, that's just the power of just changing literally a number. Okay, I'm an X, and I'm going to Y, and I'm like, okay, it all works.
It's done. I was so impressed when I updated this project at the beginning of the week. I was like, oh, I better update it to .NET 8, you know? And I was like, oh, is this going to be a pain? And they just changed that, and I was like, oh. No.
Very good. Awesome. Yeah. Well, we're at time. So if anybody has any more questions for Layla, please put them on YouTube. She'll be watching the stream as well.
I will do.
And Maddie's heading out. She's going to go lunchtime and talk
to some waffles.
Yeah, and talk to the engineers too. Yep. And just kind of, it's nice because like literally we're in building 25 here in Microsoft, and then she just crosses the street, and the entire .NET team and the Mao team are literally across the street. Which is awesome.
Say hello to them for me, Maddie. Give everyone a big hug.
Good luck, Javier.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you.